Mind over matter, overcompensating, overstatements, crookedness related, the soul's churn in return, mental overstimulation, one word, riveting, it terrors my pilot. Streams that are promised to make seeking less.
Positive vibes, and we are off on a lift off to the next stratosphere of sorts. Just a thought that came to my head, and I wanted to express that one. But yes, indeed, another day to share and speak on the mind, where it takes you. This varies on a daily basis. So, of course, we speak from different lenses. But in the moment, whichever one that precisely resonates with us. And yes, I've absolutely been active, but I have to say it has been positive and enjoying what I do, and I hope supporters are enjoying what I'm putting out there. As you know, just recently released this book called Poetry Vent, Ramblings of a Madman by the Mad Poet. And this is the Mad Poet podcast. I'm still getting used to the name, as you know. I'm sure we keep it moving. So, this is my piece for the day. It says, rain comes but once a year, followed by nightmares. In the aftermath of swollen tears, I call it the third gear. To disappear is the usual nights of rear, where the dragon breathes like sniveling maggots down my ear, in need to feed but can't wait to get rid. The feelings tweak like blood between white sheets, redefine my eardrums every time the decibels sounds are renowned. Like surround sounds, my breath weighs a ton, though I could not fathom, so my walls come tumbling down. My version of destruction. Yes, indeed, and this is a quote, as I always say, and literally is a quote from something I created, a piece. So, I hope that was, just right, maybe. Sort of get a method of my madness, so to speak. But outside of that, let's get to the meat and drink, or should I say, the steak and potatoes. Who are you? And in my case, I was like to myself, am I? But who are you? you might say, of course, you know, let me continue. And we play such a role that perhaps we not truly grasp, or we may never truly grasp. And so down the rabbit hole I go. What do I mean? Well, it makes me wonder about the grand scheme. Like, is there such a thing as freedom? Is it merely another form of symbolism? You know, we think or we wish that what we do matter. It never does. It never did. It never will. Thoughts? Or, well, that was sort of juxtaposed. So, but on the other side, does it appear that way because we took the free will in a way? Or perhaps we took the red? And I suppose, in a sense, it all aligns with your disposition, what resonates with you, what makes sense to you. You know, when was the last time you saw the glass empty? Are you prone to see it half full? How do you deal with loss? You know, these are certain things I would ponder because I think it is somewhat of a predisposition of certain traits that cultivates certain acts, certain doings, certain proactivities that we, over time, periodically activate to somewhat create this ecosystem of proactivity or actions that somewhat defines who we are. And I hope you're following me. How do you deal with loss? Are you the eye for an eye type? Do you balance losing an eye by taking another one? In the sense that you think destruction begets destruction, do you constantly strive to be better? Do you strive to be better? I think, you know, this is consistent with what I was just explaining. In doing, you pretty much are somewhat defining, somewhat telling. You could perhaps call it telltale signs. And so, actually, I will get to that one. So, just speaking on the premise of things, I personally think that's an interesting premise, Bobo, and an interesting thought, or a sort of a system of actions that predispose you to a certain tuning, if you will. As you know, let me continue. I see it as the frequencies that created our ecosystem of souls. Thus, by seeking good, better, the best, ergo greatness, that's also a choice. Because of what it takes to garner this place, this road, this trajectory. And in a sense, I was thinking about this, and I thought to myself, could we perhaps temper our disposition for darkness, perhaps, for example? Maybe you're the first of your generation to break a chain. Though someone might see you excited for what may seem, and this is an example by the way, someone might see you excited for what may seem the most minuscule of accomplishments. In their eyes, anyway, in their eyes. Not knowing how much of a gigantic step you just ascended, not only for yourself, but for the direct, just general people around you. You know? But for the future of specifically for the future of your lineage, maybe this is greatness, or somewhat the start, or the birth, planting a seed, that will impact you generation to come. Do you feed yourself? And feeding in many forms, not just the physical form, feeding the body, but do you feed your mind? What do you tell yourself? How do you respond to doing something that people perceive as being very positive, great, perhaps? How do you perceive your actions that are somewhat regarded as positive things by people? Does your disposition allow you to see precisely this? Food for thought. Thus, by default, do you aim to feed with grace? Do you aim to feed others with grace? There is such a thing as doing and just getting it done. But do you do it with grace? Do you do it with empathy? Do you do it with enthusiasm? Do you do it with positivity? All these things. How do you initiate? How do you process? Because, as they say, do unto others by default, you do for self. No empathy for others, you can't empathize with self, correct? So, and this goes back to the whole ecosystem that I mentioned earlier. You know, who are you in your own space? Are you the same person around others? Are you allowed to be? Do you allow yourself to be? What resonates with you? Just questions, just questions. Do you thrive from giving back? Do you know how to give back? You know, these are just things I would sit and ponder when it comes to a person. In certain people's case, a persona. Because I suppose in certain instances it might seem somewhat of a stretch, but we're not all lucky enough to show our true face to the masses, the greater mass, the greater population, if you will, in our greater surrounding. You know. But yes, what is your calling? Do you hate? And that would be an interesting one to personally ask. Do you love? Hate and love, right? Fine line. Fine line. Ultimately, the leading question being, where am I going with all this? Are you prone to destructive tendencies? Or the need to build? Are you creating by destroying, or are you building by creating? And you know, I think awareness is everything, in my opinion. Hence why I bring this to attention. Perhaps you may be aware. Maybe you are living a nightmare. Perhaps now is the time to change. Isn't that the peculiar thought? But food for thought nonetheless. I'll let you be the judge. I thought it interesting to explore. After all, this is a podcast. Bear with me. And to somewhat add to this, just another segment. And this is a research BBC News article I was reading. And I think it came out on the 6th of June. And it just caught my eye. I thought, this is interesting. Some people perhaps have seen it. But it was basically explaining this guy, highlighting this guy on social media that's pushing a narrative about climate change denial. And whether you believe in climate change or not, it intrigued me to really ask questions about what would make someone take a stance like this, to choose to go down this route where climate change. Now, whether it's true or not, that's not necessarily where I'm going with this. I'm just thinking about the mentality and what's behind that, because I would like to think that everybody would agree that, it's somewhat of a negative and somewhat destructive stance to take pertaining to the world that we live in. And if this perhaps is true, by default, that means you're opposed to work for destruction and destroying the future for your own kids, potentially. And others too. But even that for me is somewhat nuanced. A creator, for certain, but ultimately a creator of or creating destruction by default, destructive tendencies. Certainly aware, you have to be. In this day and age, you have to. Or do you? Somewhat debatable. As odd as it may sound, perhaps he found his calling in life. But as the pendulum swings, it does not discriminate, as they say. Thus, I find whatever you do to others, you're ultimately doing for self. But hey, maybe he is an exception, and this may never swing back to sort of tapping on the back and say, hey, it's your turn, as like the Reaper would do, as they say in horror movies and stuff. I'll let you be the judge, but my one of the ultimate goals of what I do on here, or what I like to do, is to bring awareness, bring questions, have people somewhat provoke thought. So I happen to think that's part of my goal. It's part of self-mastery, and I'm big on that. So I hope everybody appreciate where I take these discussions. But thanks everyone for listening, and thank for your support. And again, hold your journal. Sorry. When you have more than one publishing, sometimes you do lose chain of thoughts like that, but hold your vent. Ramblings of a Madman is out now on Amazon. And of course, I have my own site, so I've been doing direct posts to people that order directly from me. So it's been great, I've really, since the book launch, I've had positive feedback from everybody, so just, the support has been great. So thanks so much, and I appreciate everyone for listening. But I will be back soon, definitely be doing, perhaps today, so stay tuned. Thanks for listening, take care.
Mind over matter, overcompensating, overstatements, crookedness related, the soul's churn in return, mental overstimulation, one word, riveting, it terrors my pilot. Streams that all promised to make seeking less.